Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone to the CDR and Databricks interactive training session. On the screen, as always, are two links that point you to the CCSQ DNA portal. I will be pasting those in the chat here shortly. You can click on them to view previous training sessions or upcoming training events. Before we get started, let me just go over some administrative announcements. This session is a little different. It's an interactive session, so it's going to be more collaborative. We will have breakout rooms shortly after Tim kicks us off. And a CCSQ DNA team member will be available for support in each room. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them verbally by going off of mute or even, using your raise hand feature in the Zoom. Portions of this meeting will be recorded and made available in the CCSQ DNA portal. Just make sure to give us a few days to turn those around. At the end of the session today, I will be administering a poll. So make sure to leave us your feedback on how today went. But with that said, let me go ahead and stop screen sharing and hand it over to our speaker, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura, and hi, everybody. If you have never seen me before, my name is Tim. I'm a member of our user services team, and I'm going to be leading our interactive session today. Let me mute Slack so we don't hear the nightmare wood chime on repeat. Okay, sorry. I'll begin sharing my screen. I'm going to talk about what we're doing a little bit, and then, as Laura said, it's just going to be on you. We're going to have breakout rooms. There's going to be a member of our team in every room, and it'll be a lot of fun. So this session is on kind of beyond the basics of advanced data analytics in Spark. So in this session, we're going to move beyond what we would consider to be like foundational Spark operations. A lot of what our team has focused on teaching has been basically anything you could think about doing in SQL. So like where clauses, select, joins, group by, order by, things like that. Once you break beyond what like plain old SQL is capable of, you get to really see the power of PySpark. So that is kind of the goal, to stretch a little bit beyond what we're currently capable of in some, what I'll just call advanced material. So our learning objectives is as that, apply advanced Spark transformations and aggregations to solve realistic analytic problems. We're going to collaborate in small groups to practice problem solving and explain Spark solutions clearly to peers, and strengthen intuition for when to leverage Spark's distributed power versus simpler alternatives. We're actually not going to be doing very much of that, but we're going to be existing entirely within Spark today. So I've got two icebreakers for you, a work one and a fun one. So I want to know, where are you in your SAS to Databricks transition? Are you just beginning? Are you starting to really get the hang of things in Databricks and PySpark? Just where on that spectrum are you? And also, how do you like your coffee? It's 2 p.m. here on the East Coast, which means it's almost time for coffee number 2. I like my coffee black with just like a little bit of cream to change the color. I know it's weird, but like I just like a little bit of that bitterness taken away. And that's when I'm not drinking an energy drink. I've been drinking too many Alani recently. They're probably not good for me. So feel free to sound off in the chat. African single origin. Way too late for coffee number 2. I'm trying to limit myself to 2. We have a hipster in the chat drinking cold brew in mason jars. Dang.
I'm always impressed by people who don't drink coffee. Like how I drink lots of water and get my sleep, and yet I still need something to push through.
Yeah. Kevin puts salt in his coffee. I've heard of that. I've never dared to try it.
Yeah.
Salt?
Yeah, just a very small sprinkle of salt, stir it up. It takes the bitterness away. It's great. I'm never a big coffee drinker. I started doing that and I've been hooked.
Is it true? I heard somewhere it's called the Navy coffee or something.
I don't know. I've never heard it that way,
I
but
don't
I've
know.
also heard of people who put butter, like a small, like a pat of butter in there, probably for the same-ish reason too, if it's a salted butter.
I've heard of butter.
I think
Allergic to caffeine? I've never heard of a caffeine allergy. That's tragic.
Oof.
Gina answering the real icebreaker. Towards the end of your transition, working through making programs more efficient. Great, I love it. I love that you've been able to make the transition and are just working on like ironing out the kinks. That's great. Tracy, I haven't shared it yet, but that's a good reminder. I'll share it now. So I didn't make a mistake this time, at least I hope. All workspace users can view. Oh, actually, I guess people did share it out. Okay.
Oren
Thank you,
has your back.
Oren. Oren's on it. Thank you so much, Oren. You will not be able to edit what you're looking at. You must clone it because this is the primary copy. So if you go to File and Clone, and make sure you clone it to your own location. Don't clone it to like the community location. So in order to actually work on it, you will need to clone.
You also need to create your own cluster. Can't use Tim's cluster.
Yes, don't use my cluster, please. Okay, feel free to keep some icebreaker questions going. I'm going to talk about the run of show, and I want you to have the maximum amount of time that we can give you. So below, we have 3 problems for each of you. Each of them is intended to use tools, again, beyond what is contained in a typical tutorial setting. The idea is to favor realism over reinforcing the basics. And unlike our traditional teaching material, you're actually encouraged to begin with the internet on this one. So feel free to use the internet, and actually, it feels weird to say, but we do live in 2025. I encourage you to use AI to solve these problems. In a lot of cases, the answer involves techniques or functions that you might not even know exist. So feel free to just go straight to AI. I think that is kind of the future we're headed towards. And as long as you're not putting anything proprietary in these things, they are fantastic resources. Also, you can use whatever language you want here, but we are going to be Python-centric with our solutions. So you can use Python or R, whichever is more convenient to you. Just be aware that I am going to run everything in Python. So any of the solutions we're going to go over at the end will be in Python, and the solutions that I'm going to post online later also will only be in Python. So feel free to use R. I love R, but the answers are only going to be in Python. So here was our agenda, intro and icebreaker. I'm going to give you as much time as we can, and then we'll come back with like 10, 15 minutes to go over a solution. And I believe there will be a survey for you at the end too. And one last thing before we get started, a little bit of a difficulty disclaimer. The point is that these are difficult. They're beyond the basics, as I've said before. So don't feel bad if you just look at this and just be like, I literally just don't know how to do that. Again, I'm encouraging you to use the internet. I'm encouraging you to use AI. But as such, because of the difficulty, don't expect to be able to complete all 3 of these in the time we have. Pick any 1 or 2, or maybe you can go for all 3, but pick any one to start with. It doesn't matter which. They're not in any order of difficulty. So just pick the one that seems the most interesting to you, maybe the most similar to problems you've worked on in the past. And yeah, so when we create these breakout rooms, there's going to be one for each problem and a help me I'm lost room. There's going to be a member of the user services team in each of these rooms to help you along if you so choose to ask them for help. I'm going to live here in the main room. If you want to ask me anything, I'll be here too. And we'll come back at 45 after the hour, so 2:45 Eastern time. I have a little bit of starter code for you. So you're probably going to want to import PySpark SQL functions as capital F, as we often do. And I even have the data reads for you that you're going to want. Okay, it is now time to open the breakout rooms. In my screen share view, I can't quite tell if that has happened yet. I don't think it has.
Yes, it has.
Laura, I didn't catch what you said, but
Sorry, I just said that the breakout rooms are now open.
Cool. The breakout rooms are open. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so I have a better view of Zoom. And have fun. I'll see you all at 2:45. All right, I think everybody's back. It looks like the breakout rooms are closed. I have heard good things from my colleagues in the breakout rooms. Let's talk about the solutions here. And I've made sure my cluster is running this time. I've made mistakes where my cluster was not running. So the first problem was on credit card data. What did we have in this table? Oh my God. All right, here we go. Okay, it's not taking that long. Oh my God, it's going to embarrass me. My cluster is running, but now it just doesn't want to run. Here we go. Okay, that only took 18 seconds to do a .show. So what do we have here? We have full name, zip code, the credit card number, the expiration date, and people's email address. So I think what I'm going to do here is I saw the most people in room 1. I'm going to solve part of problem 1, and then I think I'm going to hop down to problem 3 because I know people were very active in solving problem number 3. So I think that's where I'm going to focus our short amount of time together. So what did we have to do for problem 1? We had to do a rename, so rename that column. And we had a problem with some of the zip codes. If you look, I think maybe farther down. Yeah, so if a zip code begins with a 0, as they all do in my home state of New Jersey, they all begin with 0. This isn't an integer, this is supposed to be a string. So I wanted you to cast the zip code back into a string with leading zeros where appropriate. And I also wanted you to do a split and a select on the full name. So I wanted you to take the first and last name and make them separate columns. Also, I wanted to create a domain that extracts the email domain and a time to expire, but I'm not going to get to that last one. Oh, and by the way, I feel the need to say this because I didn't say it before. The data for problems 1 and 2 are totally fake and simulated. I used a Python library called Faker, so don't read too much into anybody's name or anything like that. It's all simulated data. Okay. So let's start what I like to call like a pipeline here, where I'm just going to do a bunch of Spark commands one after another. So the first thing I wanted to do was a rename. To rename a column, you do with column renamed. I think the old name comes first, and then the new name. Yeah, so existing and new. So I wanted to rename it like this. And then I want to cast zip code to be the 0 padded version of itself. So zip code, and how are we going to do this? So what I need to do first is I need to cast the integer as a string. So I'm going to grab the column. Then I'm going to cast it as a string. And then if you sleuthed around ChatGPT or the internet well enough, you might have found the lpad function. So f.lpad. And what the left pad function does is it pads characters to the left based on some length and some pad character, which is going to be the string 0. Make sure my parentheses line up. I think they do. Let's check on this one. Oh. All right, that looks good so far. Next, I want to pull people's first and last names out. So I'm going to create a new column with column, I'll do first name. And you might have found the split function, so f.split. On full name, you have to specify the character to split on. So you're going to split it on the space. And then on that, there was a get item like that. And you could have done the same thing for the last name with a 1 instead of a 0. And I think the last thing I want to do here for problem 1 is extract the email domain. So this one was tough. I'm going to make this one on multiple lines. So I'm going to call this new column domain. And the best way to work with email addresses is to use regexes or regexes, depending on how you want to pronounce it. So if you've never used a regular expression, oh boy. A regular expression is a mini language within programming to help identify substrings or match substrings of a string. And if you've never seen a complicated regex before, they look funky. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take the email column and we're going to say regexp extract. And this takes 3 arguments. The column, I think you can just say it as a string, but I might have to fix that. The regex, and then how many you want to pull out. We're just going to pull out 1. So with regexes, you typically need to make them raw strings in Python. If you've never done this before, putting a little r before a string in Python will turn it into a raw string, which means it will ignore implicit escape characters. So you don't have to like do any like weird double escapes to do a backslash or something like that. All right, so what is the domain of an email? The domain of an email is this piece right here. It's what comes after the @ and what comes before the last, or the next dot, right? So it is going to be what? An @ sign. And then we're going to do what's called a capture region. And then there's going to be a dot, but you have to escape the dot because a dot is a special regex character. And then a region that can be any number of words. So \w is word character. Maybe I don't need the brackets. Let's find out. And any number of them, so a plus sign. And then I need to tell it that that is the end of the string. So $sign means this is going to be the end of the string. So what I need to put in this capture region is what the domain can be, and the domain can also just be only word characters. So A, B, C, D, uppercase, lowercase. Right? All right, looks good. Again, if you've never seen a regular expression before, this probably just looked like magic or a foreign language. But there is some method to this madness. And again, I encourage you to use ChatGPT. So if you knew what a regex was and you went to ChatGPT and said, get me the regex that extracts a domain from an email address, it would have probably came up with a better one than I did here. This one actually has a teensy error in it if there's multiple dots, but this is good enough, I think, for our data. All right. And again, I'm not going to cover all of these, but if you want to see more, there will be a solution key posted online later. All right, I'm going to move down to problem 3 with my dwindling minutes that I have left. Because 3 was interesting because it worked with window functions. So, is it stocks? Yeah. So my stocks table is 2 mutual funds. I won't mention which, but they are total market domestic funds and total market international funds. And they range from, I think, like 2021 through present. I think maybe I have some data that goes back to 2018 here. But I asked you to do a couple things. I asked you to create a daily return for the domestic table, for the domestic. And then I also asked you to do a Sharpe ratio. I think I'm going to skip the Sharpe ratio. And I'm going to talk about the MACD lines. If you've ever worked with those, that's what the slow line and fast line was about. So let's grab those date times. I think working with date time data is probably the least fun I have while working with data. So going to ChatGPT is a huge benefit here. So what you can do is you can actually, if you have a properly formatted date time column, not me, month, is you can just say F month date of the date column and year, F year date. and this should work. And I also wanted to create daily return data for the domestic fund. And that was just the difference between the current value, close domestic, and yesterday's value. You didn't have to create a whole new column for yesterday's value, but there is a function called f.lag. And if you were working in pandas, the non-distributed version of PySpark, you would be done here because you could just say f.lag, that's yesterday's value, and here we're good. But you can't do that in PySpark because of the distributed nature of PySpark. The same rows, you don't know if they're going to be in the same cluster or partition when you run a distributed calculation. So running a calculation like this needs a window. You need to tell PySpark, hey, don't just look at the row, you're going to need the row and the row before it. So the f.lag function needs to be over some window. And up above, we defined a window W that orders the window by date. And we have yesterday's return value. And I'll call this stocks return, and not just these 5.
Hey, Tim, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Uh,
So I'll stop here. We are very nearly out of time. So I want to thank you all for joining. I will pass it back to Laura, who I believe has a survey for you, and be on the lookout for solutions when they're posted. And I will see you in the next one.
Great. Thank you, Tim. All right. Before everyone drops, I am going to administer the survey. Again, let us know how we did today, how we can improve. And if you have any suggestions that we could use in the future for topics you haven't seen presented on, make sure to share those in that survey that you see on your screen right now. It's only 4 questions. And once you're done, you're more than welcome to drop while you're taking the survey. Just so you know, next week we have a training session that lands on a Monday instead of a Tuesday. I think we usually have them on Tuesdays, but next week will be Monday, the 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And that's going to be about function development best practices. So you should see the invite on your calendar. If you don't, feel free to reach out to me directly and I can add you to it. I'm going to post the link in the chat if you are interested to learn more about what that session entails. And then also the week after that, there will be a session that does land on a Tuesday. But again, you can find all those events and timings and all that in our CCSQ DNA portal. That's that second link. But thank you everyone for joining today's interactive session. And again, once you're done, you're more than welcome to drop.
Thank you, Laura, and bye, everyone.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Bye.